to me, it's very interesting that Batman, what his first appearance was 40 something.
I think it was 38. But
Was
I
it-
always
thought
get
38
confused
was
with Superman.
Superman was 38.
Yeah, I always get confused.
It could be the same time because that was
No, Batman was later because Batman, the editor of Superman said, give me another Superman, but this time make it dark.
right.
And we always joked at DC, but I think it's a truism that Metropolis, Superman, it's obviously in the DC Comics lore, you have fictional cities rather. And in Marvel, you have real cities. So Marvel characters live in New York City, but Superman and Batman live in Metropolis and Gotham City. So we used to always joke that Metropolis is New York City above 34th Street and Gotham is below 34th Street.
Oh, I thought one was Chicago and one was New York.
That's later conception.
Oh, it's a later conception.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But
I think actually that the Flash Central City, that's more Chicago or Minneapolis or Kansas City. Right. And then you had Star City, which was the stand-in for Los Angeles, and that was Green Lantern. And it's fun. It's fun to live in this. And we also, we were inventing even products, fictional products. So Superman was great at that. Mike Carlin used to use Soda Cola all the time. And I'm trying to remember some of the other products. But so there was always a real world analog, a fictional analog in the DC Comics or the DC universe. And I think that's a fun place to play.
Right. The Batman storyline, the original one was super dark. I don't think there was anything prior to
something. The Chemical Syndicate was the title of the very first story, I think.
Was it? Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but
Batman with purple gloves and he's packing a gun.
Yeah, but right. Yeah, and it goes into the whole the Batman origin story, which is interesting to me that as such a critical component of the Batman story that can be tweaked kind of at will, like who killed. You know, Martha and
right. Spoiler
Thomas
alert:
Wayne.
Was it Joe Chill, or was Joe Chill actually hired by somebody else, and it was a conspiracy by the mob?
Right.
And yeah. And my favorite writers on Batman, Scott Snyder comes to mind. I didn't work with Scott directly, but he has a gift for finding the spaces between the established stories to build out the mythos in fascinating ways. And my highest compliment to anybody when they do something creative is, wish I had thought of that.
Right.
And Scott earns that all the time. So he's just one example of a writer like that. And by the way, talking about Batman and Batman's been around, but there have been different iterations of Batman. Denny used to always say that the reason Batman is the greatest of the fictional characters, it's certainly created in comics, but possibly arguably one of the top 5 in all of fiction. And if you want to argue with me, you're welcome to, but you'll be wrong.
Again.
Yes. And by the way, humor comes in threes. So there'll be a third time within this podcast that I will make that joke, and it'll be even funnier then. And if it hasn't been funny up to now, it'll be hilarious when I get to it.
Just
so
wait for it.
Wait for it.
Wait
exactly.
for it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So he used to say that what makes Batman great is that he is endlessly adaptable, that every generation gets their Batman. And sometimes generations get more than one Batman. For example, if you look in the 2000s, you had some very interesting iterations of Batman all coinciding. So you had the Nolan trilogy Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, but also on TV, you had The Brave and the Bold, where Batman was kind of your big brother. And he used to do team ups, and you had a jazzy score, and it had a little bit of the Adam West flavor, but without the campiness. And I loved it, and I loved the Nolan stuff also. And these two are coexisting. They're concurrent, and there's no problem. We recognize it's Batman, and we appreciate that there can be more than one Batman. And I think that creatively is very important to the success of a brand, because you look at Star Trek, for example, just to take another example, it was very monolithic. Star Trek has to be this thing. And it folded in on itself or collapsed on itself after a good 20-year run. Nothing wrong with that. But because it couldn't breathe, and it couldn't allow more than one different iteration. And now,
but which they're doing now,
right? Right. And you can argue the merits of the quality of what they're doing now.
Right.
Some people love it, some people hate it. But one of the nice things is to be able to say, fantastic. At least they're trying something new. And with Batman, with No Man's Land, for example, that was one of the things that I was hoping also. I was hoping to break everything, to be able to let the next generation of writers come in and just have a fresh start, that they're not beholden to anything that we would do. And when I parted amicably from DC in '99, I guess it was, I never looked back. I never wanted to. In fact, I stayed away for a very long time and didn't even comment that much publicly, because I wanted to give, it's like when presidents, right? When the next president comes in, the previous president theoretically is supposed to fade into the background and let the new guy have his shot. And in my case, I wanted to let the new gals and guys have their shot. So.
Right. Hi, I'm Jeff Schechter, and this is the Writers Room Pros podcast. Make sure you subscribe. You ring that bell so you don't miss any conversations we have with writers, producers, directors, composers, actors, everybody involved in the business of storytelling. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram at WritersRoom Pro. Which is your favorite iteration of Batman? Or do you like,
I have
there's
one.
things, yeah?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the Jerry Englehart, not Jerry Englehart. What was his name? Jerry Englehart is my friend. Englehart. What was his first name? Englehart and Rogers, Marshall Rogers.
Okay.
It was Detective Comics 472 through 479, I think it was.
What years?
Very brief run. Would have been late 70s,
Okay.
I'm guessing, something like that. And it's been re-released time and time again in different packaging. It was 6 issues, and it redefined the Joker for the ages. I would argue that the Joker that we have now is because of that Joker. There was one storyline called The Laughing Fish.
Mhm.
It was very loosely adapted for the first Tim Burton movie. And the artwork was just, it gave such scope and grandeur to Batman in a way that I had never experienced the character before. And Neil Adams was great, and Carmen Infantino was wonderful, and Dick Giordano was wonderful and was one of my mentors. He always took credit for getting me into comics. But that was the period. And folks, you should check that out if you've never seen that storyline. But there's an interesting story behind that. Englehart wrote in a vacuum. He wrote 6 issues, and then he went on vacation to Tahiti or wherever he went. And it was kind of like, when Lucas and Spielberg went away to Hawaii after Star Wars was released, and
came up with Indiana Jones.
Or was it Indiana? And they created Indiana Jones on the beach, right? Yeah. But the reason why is Lucas was so stressed out from the experience that he needed to get away from it all. He thought this film was going to be a failure, and I'm doomed, and it's all over. And then word started leaking, this is taking over the world by fire. And I think it was kind of the same thing with Englehart, where word started leaking out to him that your Batman is becoming the definitive Batman. It's taking the world by storm.
Wow. I don't know that.
I'll get it for you.
Oh, yeah? That's
Yeah.
nice. Thanks. I'll wait here. Go on. Okay. No, we'll do it afterwards. I'd love to read that. How about the TV and cinema Batmans? Which one kind of resonates the most? Batman. Which one resonates for you?
Oh, gosh. Adam West.
Really?
Yeah.
See, it's funny. So Adam West, so it's 1966,
Yeah.
right? So that Batman. So I'm super young, like 7 years old. And that's hitting my cerebral cortex at exactly the same time as Star Trek, the original series, is hitting my cerebral cortex. And those things together at exactly that same time is the reason that I wanted to become a writer. So I think I've said publicly, I know I've said it publicly, like I knew I wanted to be a writer from the age of 7 because you had Batman and Star Trek, kind of happening at the same time. But in retrospect, and I mean, obviously I've got my toys. Like one of my favorites is there's a company called Tweeterhead that made what's the size? It's not 1/6. It's bigger anyway. But it's a Batman and Robin in the Batcave kind of diorama, beautifully done with the Bat computer behind it, and I just love that piece because it takes me back to that was sort of this inspiration. But looking back on it now, because it was so campy, it almost feels like it was made by people who I don't know if was they were lovingly mocking comic books or just mocking comic books.
I guess it depends which season also.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the Lorenzo Semple Jr. scripts were just works of genius.
Really?
And then it started after he wasn't involved anymore, it started to become a parody of itself.
Okay.
But pop culture was huge at that time.
Mhm.
And I think that they were using Batman as a way of exploring what was going on in society in a very subversive way. I think there's a lot more going on there than you think is going on there. Maybe I'm reading into this a little bit
No,
too much,
it's certainly
but
worth,
yeah,
like, looking at it for that.
yeah. And I saw this show in syndication.
Uh-huh.
So when they used to say, tune in tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel to find out what happens, that seemed logical to me because the syndication was on 5 days a week.
Right.
But if you think about it, wait a minute, if this was originally run in prime time, wasn't it a weekly show? Shouldn't it have been tuned in next
It was,
week?
no, 2 episodes a week.
Exactly. However, if you watch the third season,
Uh-huh.
Batgirl, they say tune in next week because by that time they had cut it back to 1 day a week.
Right.
The bloom was off the bat.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm curious now how many episodes they did in that first season, because they were airing
50 some episodes,
back
right?
to back.
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
So their output was
Yeah.
tremendous. They probably have as many episodes as the
Right.
original Star Trek.
Yeah, I actually want to watch that first Adam West episode again, just to see like what was the tone of it, because I remember watching the first episode of Lost in Space,
Right.
which is also in around that
Music
same time.
by Jazzy Johnny Williams.
But the first episode of Lost in Space is super dark.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Smith like kills somebody and throws him down a garbage chute, and the robot is shot from this like low angle, and like being really
Right.
ominous and stuff like that.
Right. But then they realized that the kid and the robot was the center of their show and it lightened up.
Yeah, no, but not just lightened up, but then Dr. Smith just became this campy, silly, character. But it's interesting. I was wondering if that was like sort of a reflection, because also mid '60s. I wonder if that's sort of like a reflection of that time, and maybe Batman was an attempt to be a sort of an antidote to. There's a lot of tension in America in the mid '60s, and that's why they think that Ted Lasso currently is so popular, because with COVID and with troubles in the world, Ted Lasso is just this positive, upbeat character. It's kind of like we need to laugh again,
Right.
kind of thing.
Well, gosh, there's so much to, as we say now, unpack with that. We could have a whole separate hour just about that. I will say also that I think the most true to the Batman mythos adaptation is the Batman animated series from the early mid 90s. So I think that together, the Adam West one and the animated one are the real distillations of their eras. But look, you look at the Nolan stuff, and it is a response to the Bush years, the President Bush years. And you look at what they're doing now with the Batman. And by the way, Jimmy Kimmel had a great line that really deserves a shout out here, or whoever the writer was who thought of this. He was introducing Robert Pattinson, who's playing Batman,
Right.
to come on and be a guest on the show. So he said, and this next actor coming up does what every vampire does. He turns into a bat, presenting... This is a throwaway line? This is gold. Nice job, whoever wrote that line.
Right. I'm shocked that I didn't think of that myself.
There you go. See,
So there you
the
go.
highest compliment. I wish I'd thought of that myself.
That's right,
That's
right.
2 on that one also. We need a scoreboard. Anyway, so yeah, like we were talking about with the Batman Adam West show. Again, zeitgeist. You're not pulling things from the vacuum. You are a reflection of everything that's going on around you. And it would be very interesting to go back and look at that and see it in the context of the time period.